Arun Puri Saab, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my proud privilege to be speaking to such an august gathering. I would like to express my gratitude, first of all, to Arun Puri Saab for having invited me and then given me this opportunity to speak frankly to this august gathering. I would also like to express my gratitude to all of you for being here together and for honoring me. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the officials and the government of India for all the care that they have taken and they are taking for my security and protocol. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The subject that I have been given to speak on is indeed the challenge of change. I am presuming, obviously, that the challenge of change in the context of Indo-Pakistan relations and not the world. So therefore, I presume कि ये एक आपस की बात है, आपस की बात करनी है. And we have to be very frank and forthright in this आपस की बात. The subject indeed is most apt. It is apt because it really depicts what is happening in the world, in our region, and also, may I say, in our respective countries. And there is an urgent requirement of a change. But when we say change, I take it implies breaking the status quo, burying the past, moving forward positively. That, to be exact, is the essence of my speech or my lecture today. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand for peace. Peace between India and Pakistan, whether you believe it or not. Irrespective of all the cover, what you said on the cover. And I mean every word of it. Again, whether you believe it or not. I stand for peace for the sake of the whole world, which today considers our region as a nuclear flashpoint. I stand for peace for the sake of our region, the South Asian region, where progress and development is tied to harmony between India and Pakistan. I stand for peace for the sake of the people of our two countries, the downtrodden, toiling masses of India and Pakistan. And I stand for peace for the sake of our future generations, to whom we owe a better life and a better environment. Yes, indeed, Mr. Arun Puri, I was being advised against coming, even by my daughter, because of her concern for me, nothing else, because of her concern for me against the extremist reactions, negative reactions by the extremists on both sides, in India and Pakistan. But I decided to come I decided to come to prove a point that the extremists must not have their way. We, the moderates, must guide events. We, the moderates, must stand for resolution of all issues, of all disputes between us, for everlasting peace. And we must not allow the extremists to create obstacles in the way of that peace, of that direction towards peace. I know that the people of Pakistan desire peace. I know it for sure. And I would like to tell all of you that that is the reality. But they would like to have peace with honor and dignity. Not a peace through coercion. A peace with sovereign equality. Ladies and gentlemen, my credentials as a man for peace, you must differentiate a man of peace from a man for peace. I can't be a man of peace because I've been a soldier. So I'm a man of war, but I am a man for peace. And my credentials are proven by all my actions, the actions that I've been taking in all the years that I have been at the helm of affairs. It was I who initiated the thawing of the relations between India and Pakistan. When I rang up Prime Minister Vajpayee after your most unfortunate earthquake in the year 2000 in Gujarat, and I offered support from Pakistan. It was again Prime Minister Vajpayee and myself, who finalized the draft joint declaration after the Agra summit in July 2001, which would have formed the basis for durable peace. The drafting of this declaration was indeed done at the highest level by me, myself, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Abdul Sattar, Prime Minister Vajpayee, and your Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh Saab. We did the drafting. It is just unfortunate that some force behind the scene sabotaged this attempt twice, where we could not finally reach an agreement on this joint declaration. Subsequently, we again went into the cold situation of the past till a very unfortunate occurrence of the attack on your parliament in December 2001. And what followed was very serious indeed. Firstly, you went for a troops build-up. All the Indian forces were moved on our border, including the forces from the Eastern Command. And we reciprocated, of course. So there was a force standoff for almost 1 long year between us, with the forces eyeball-to-eyeball contact. Another thing that happened, and I saw, was that all along this 1 year, there was a war hysteria that was whipped up in the public in India. And if I may be allowed to say, by whom? By the political leadership, by your political leadership, and also the media. If I was to take a dig at India Today, maybe your magazine or your India Today also, that was the situation here. On our side, I tried my utmost to cool tempers. And you can read any of my statements or whatever I did, my actions. If you remember, my role was positive throughout. In January, just 1.5 months after this, and during this standoff, I decided to go for a handshake with Prime Minister Vajpayee at Kathmandu during the SAARC summit in January 2002 to defuse the situation. And throughout this 1 year, I was insisting on de-escalation, reduction of tension. I was asking for dialogue. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, war was averted. Thank God. These peace overtures finally led to the SAARC summit in Islamabad in January 2004, and it resulted in the Islamabad Declaration, which stipulated resumption of dialogue and initiating confidence-building measures for resolving all our disputes. That was very good. But, ladies and gentlemen, we lost 2.5 years since the Agra summit in July 2001. So we restarted the same process. We also started the back-channel diplomacy. And then, in India, there was a change of government. BJP lost, and the Congress took over the reins of the government. The good thing was that despite this change, the peace process did not get derailed, it continued. And we came for the Delhi summit between myself and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. That was in April 2005. And after this Delhi summit, we issued a joint statement which stipulated very importantly the peace process being irreversible and that purposeful dialogue on Kashmir to be initiated for its final settlement. That was all very good. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we lost another 1.5 years. So if you see from the Agra summit in July 2001, and now it was April 2005, we lost 4 years. And again, we were at the same point, good intentions of moving forward towards peace. If you allow, I would like to digress a little and give you a very interesting episode during that Agra, during this Delhi summit, where myself and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh went to see the one-day cricket match between India and Pakistan. And there we were batting, and Afridi, our great hitter, whenever he's in form, was in form. So he was hitting every ball for a 6 or a 4 or to the boundary, and the ball used to come to near our enclosure every time. So for the first 2 or 3 times I clapped, I was very happy. But then I thought it's getting a little embarrassing, and whenever he hit, I would start looking left and right so that I avoid looking at, I don't know what he's doing there. And and the match continued. And then we left and we went for the meeting, official meeting. And at the meeting, I told Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, I said, Mr. Prime Minister, I suggest, although we are not scheduled to go for the closing ceremony, let us go for the closing ceremony also. And let us do the prize distribution. He did talk about security problems, but then he very graciously agreed that we will go. I said, very good. And we started our discussion. But during the discussion, my MS, my military secretary always had instructions whenever there is some kind of a match or interesting thing going on, keep me informed even during important discussions. So every time he would enter with a chit, maybe Prime Minister Manmohan Singh thought that he's giving me some important discussion point. Actually, he was giving me the cricket score. And I used to look at the chit, and in that chit, every time India loses 2 wickets, they are 2 down. The next chit comes after another half an hour, 45 minutes, they have lost another 1 or 2 wickets. Finally, when they had lost 8 wickets, I told Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, I said, Mr. Prime Minister, it appears that your team is sabotaging our attempts to go for the closing ceremony. And that's exactly what happened when the team was all out before we could go. However, please don't take it that I am thinking that Pakistan team is great, that I think your team is a great team, and they are playing much better than ours and these days. And Afridi is not at all in form like he was at that time. So coming back to the subject, ladies and gentlemen, we also took a lot of other bold steps. I declared a unilateral ceasefire on the line of control, a unilateral ceasefire, which was reciprocated by India, by you, and it is still holding out. We have saved so many lives and so much loss of property. The idea of the Srinagar-Muzaffarabad bus service, and also maybe opening of 5 more routes for travel across the line of control, and a transit trade relationship came from our side. And also, may I say, that after the Kashmir earthquake in Kashmir, the devastating earthquake in Kashmir on both sides and our frontier province in 2005, I even said we need to open the line of control totally for relief operations on both sides. Ladies and gentlemen, may I very, very honestly and sincerely say that I was not doing all this for any showmanship or for any point scoring. I was doing all this with a very sincere understanding and a very sincere conviction that the path of peace is the right course to be adopted for Pakistan and for India and for this whole region and for the whole world. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done enough damage to each other over all these years since our coming into being. We have fought 3 wars. We have fought a number of mini wars. And we've had a Cold War throughout since 1947. I strongly believe that we should try for peace now with equal zeal as we tried confronting each other. The 21st century is a century of geoeconomics, they say. And they also say that the 19th century belonged to Europe, the 20th century belonged to the United States, and they say that the 21st century belongs to Asia. The question that comes to my mind is, are we, the South Asians, poised to be a part of this Asian century of progress and development? The answer that I gave to myself is no. We are not. I'm afraid we are not. While Southeast Asia, East Asia, Northeast Asia, China, Australia, they are all cooperating for economic development. South Asia, Central Asia, this region is out of the loop. It is out of the loop because the only region out of the loop because of Indo-Pakistan acrimony and hostility. The three most serious challenges common to both India and Pakistan, which we have to face together and separately in our respective countries, are, number one, the curse of terrorism and extremism. Number two, poverty and underdevelopment. And number three, hostility between our two countries. These are the three issues, I think, which we have to address and resolve to move forward. Together, as I said, and separately in our respective countries. Our social indicators maybe are the worst in the world. Maybe we are the most illiterate, most backward, and the poorest. There are hundreds of millions of people who live below the poverty line. The situation indeed demands bold and affirmative action. We must overcome the burden of history. That is what I feel, to move forward. We must look at the present realities and we must work for the future. We have to cooperate to rise together. And I have always said, for the sake of the people, for the sake of the toiling masses of our two countries, we can draw a lesson from Europe. Europe was at each other's throats. They were warring for centuries. Even outside their boundaries in other parts of the world, in South America, in Africa, and in Asia, they were warring with each other. But then they realized the dividends of peace. And may I say, they decided to put aside the burden of history. And therefore now we see the European Union, a common currency, the euro, and their cooperation for progress and development. I think we need to learn a lesson from them. We must also see the dividends of peace that will accrue. On the issue of trade, I think at the bilateral level, there will be a manifold increase in trade. I am sure we all will agree. In the few years of rapprochement during my tenure at the helm of affairs in Pakistan, where our relations indeed, irrespective of the covers, was the best ever between India and Pakistan. the relations between India and Pakistan, I think, in those years. During those years, the trade, the importable items to Pakistan, I know, increased from 200 to 1,400. That benefited both sides, Pakistan as well as India. So therefore, I know bilaterally the trade will increase manifold to our mutual advantage. Intra-regionally, there will be interaction. As far as Pakistan is concerned, maybe we have a road access to Nepal and Bangladesh. As far as India is concerned, you will have a road access to Afghanistan. Interregionally, the South Asia and India in particular could interact with Central Asia, could interact with the Gulf, could interact with Iran, and the IPI pipeline is the case in point. So certainly economically, we stand to gain immeasurably. On the defense side, there will be certainly a defense expenditure reduction, more resources diverted towards development, well-being, welfare and well-being of the people. Our fight against terrorism and extremism will be more coordinated with cooperation from each other. We will be able to fight it more strongly. SAARC, the only organization representing South Asia, will be rejuvenated from all points of view. Tourism will boom, especially religious tourism on both sides. There are so many people who would like to come to India. There are so many people in Pakistan and so many people in India, I know, because you have your revered Hindu shrines in Pakistan, Sikh shrines in Pakistan, Buddhist localities in Pakistan. So there will be a tremendous boom on the tourism side. I don't think we need anybody else coming because there will be millions of people coming and going from our two countries. The question that I ask myself, is such a dream of peace possible? And the answer is yes, indeed, I think it is possible. But it is made difficult when we foment public hatred within our public for political expediency and also through a negative media. Taking the public apart, increasing the gulf between the people of the two countries. And the key to peace, progress on peace, lies in the affinity of the people of the two countries. If instead of bringing them closer to each other, if we were to take actions where we are increasing the gulf between them, that is certainly not the direction of peace. The start point in my mind is to reduce the trust deficit through very genuine confidence-building measures. We must avoid hyperreaction. We must avoid war hysteria, whipping up war hysteria in the public, creating hatred in the public because of any terrorist act that may have taken place. We must realize that we are the victims and we have to go for solutions together. We are victims together of terrorism and extremism. And we have to go together towards solutions to terrorism and extremism. So let us not create such a hysteria in our public where coming together becomes difficult, where cooperation on the issue of terrorism and extremism becomes almost impossible. Having done this, improving the environment, we must then take on resolution of disputes with true sincerity, flexibility, and boldness. These are the three qualities that are required, because I believe the last element, boldness, unless boldness is there, sincerity and flexibility and understanding is useless and meaningless. Because if you don't have the boldness to go for the solution, and solutions, may I say, are very much possible, if our niyat, and I'm not purposely saying intentions, because I don't think niyat means intentions. It's far bigger, deeper than only intentions. Niyat comes from the heart. Intentions, I think it's only from the mind. If the niyat is there, from the heart and mind, solutions to our problems are very much possible. I would like to say give very short comments on each of our dispute. And the first one that I want to take on is Kashmir itself. We have to head for a solution. I had given a formula, which was my idea, which could form a basis for moving forward and taking it towards a solution. And the formula included identifying the zones of Kashmir, going for graduated demilitarization, especially from the cities, going out of cities, so that the people of Kashmir can heave a sigh of relief, and giving maximum self-governance to the people of Kashmir, and having some kind of an overwatch on the self-governance. We thought of even making the line of control irrelevant. I think this is another Berlin Wall which needs to be torn down and not kept as a watertight Berlin Wall where people cannot even meet each other's families and relations. Then is the issue, and may I say, a lot of progress was made in the general direction that I have said. And I'm very proud of being a part of that progress that we made. Siachen is the other dispute. I think it's the easiest to solve, because I think both of us are suffering. And may I hasten to add, the Indian soldier is suffering far more than the Pakistani soldier because of the weather and terrain hazards that you face. And also may I say that there is an environmental hazard now in Siachen where the glacier is melting down. So for the sake of peace, for the sake of the environment, we need to reach an accord. We must disengage and demilitarize. I think it can be done very, very easily. Sir Creek is the third dispute. The significance of Sir Creek is not on the land. It is more extended into the sea, into the EEZ, the exclusive economic zone. Well, we have carried out a joint survey and completed the joint survey during my being at the helm of affairs. And we certainly have a very, very clear idea of the problem. We must go for a compromise solution. That is very much possible. Even if in this zone, if all the mineral wealth of the world and all the oil and gas of the world is within this area that we are fighting for, we must find a common solution. And it is very easy. Lastly is the water dispute. Ladies and gentlemen, I think futuristically this has portents of danger. We must not open new fronts, and we must stick to the water treaty, Indus Water Treaty. Having identified the disputes, I feel we must show a resolve to solve these disputes and to start. And in the words of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, we must pick the threads again from where we left and start moving forward. We must start meetings for the dispute resolution at the committees level and at the summit level. We must also initiate confidence-building measures without any loss of time. We must stop unconsidered accusations against each other. And also we must stop meddling in each other's domestic affairs. And then we should also restart the back channel. I think it is very useful. My hope, having said all this, ladies and gentlemen, my hope is that the public and the civil society at both ends, in India and Pakistan, and the media play a positive role to put pressure on our respective governments to go for peace, make progress towards resolution of disputes and ultimate peace. In this globalized world, we all understand the significance and the importance of the media. The media can create perceptions on the positive side as well as the negative side. It is the cry of the day and the environment today that the media must create positivity and be positive for the sake of, as I said, the toiling masses, because peace will be a win-win for both, especially the people of Pakistan and India. So let the media and the political leadership show positivity. Having said all this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming towards a close. I would be remiss if, having traveled all the way from Islamabad to Delhi and had this opportunity to address such an august gathering at this very prestigious India Today Conclave afforded by Arun Puri Saab, I was not to open my heart out to you and talk very frankly now. Not that I haven't talked very frankly in the past. But I would like to go for some more frank talk. And I do expect a very frank question and answer session, a very frank question session and a more frank answer session. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, there is a dire need of an attitudinal change at both ends. More in India, less in Pakistan. Please bear out with me. We have to, or you have to, accept the reality and the sovereign equality of Pakistan. Because I know that in some quarters this is not accepted. We have to improve, we have to change, and we have to improve public perceptions of each other. The perceptions of Pakistan in India are poor. And I sincerely think so. Why are they poor? Why do you perceive Pakistan to be poor, to be bad in all points, from all points of view? And I say this with authority of having interacted with many Indians who've come to Pakistan and when I go abroad. We see Pakistan bashing in political campaigns, in your political campaigns. We see Pakistan bashing, Pakistan army bashing, ISI bashing, and the maligning of our society in your media, including India Today, sir. And I do read India Today because you have a good magazine, and certainly it is a lot of reading material. It creates mass misperception of Pakistan in the public. Therefore, whenever Indians come to Pakistan, and I've met so many of them, they get very pleasantly surprised when they see whatever we have in Pakistan, and when they meet people and their attitudes, attitudes of the people of Pakistan. What I see is that either the people who come there do not know us, they don't know anything about Pakistan, or they have very negative, distorted impressions of Pakistan. And many of them have told me that they thought things are this, and however, they see that it's very different. Also, talking very frankly of attitudes, I remember when Advani Saab came to Pakistan, and I think he praised or said some good words about Quaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And I remember the uproar here in India, and I think he was forced to resign, or he was forced to do something or the other. I am told by a very avid reader, a friend of mine who comes here, he says he visits the bookstores, all bookstores. He says on Quaid-e-Azam, you will not find a positive book in the bookstores of India, or Delhi and other cities. The one that he saw was Jinnah, the man who broke India. I would like to ask you, drawing a simile, what should Pakistan's attitude be towards Bangladesh, for that matter? We had a very violent separation. Should we live in our history, hate each other? I think we've buried the past. We have undone this burden of history, which was terrible. In fact, when I went to Bangladesh many years back, and they took me to their monument of the 1971 monument, which was quite embarrassing for me. I wrote there words to the effect, maybe I am slipping upon a few words, that the courage needed to reconcile and compromise is far greater then that needed to confront and fight. I am prepared to show that courage. I hope there is reciprocation. I think we need to change this attitude of ours between our two countries, show that courage to reconcile and compromise. May I say that this hate campaign is to quite an extent one-sided. I don't see any India bashing or very little India bashing in Pakistan's political campaign. So I think we need to correct the situation, try to improve images of each other. Because I believe we cannot, as I said, get closer and hope for peace if the people of the two countries hate each other, or there's a wide divide and there's a gulf between the people. As I said, we have to create positivity, and one hopes that all this August gathering, the civil society of India and Pakistan, and the media of India and Pakistan create this positivity so that the people start getting closer towards each other. And this was happening. This was happening in the past few years. But all these events of terrorism and extremism, which I'm going to talk now, have created that negativity again, which needs correction. One does understand that India is a large country. You have very strong forces. But Pakistan is also not a small country. And our armed forces are also not of any mean strength. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that Pakistan cannot be coerced. The public of Pakistan, the people of Pakistan cannot accept and live with coercion. India has to show magnanimity and humility. And I know that you will gain in stature when you show magnanimity and humility in your bigness. One cannot be a large country with a small heart. The second point that I want to make after attitudinal change is that we have to resolve all our disputes, especially Kashmir, without any loss of time, because it is impacting negatively on our respective societies. And I want to make 2 points on this issue of resolution of disputes. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, as I have learned on job, through my on-job training of these 8-9 years, that resolution of disputes involves a give and take. It cannot be a take and take. And it is the give part which is the difficulty. And that is where leadership demands. There is a demand on the leadership to be bold enough to give on both sides. Then only can you reach conclusions, otherwise you will never reach conclusion. You will never reach peace. You cannot resolve disputes if you think you can take everything. The second point that I want to make in resolution of disputes, fleeting opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, do not last forever. They come. They come for maybe a short period. The demand on the leadership is to grasp that fleeting moment. And that is why I said it needs boldness. You cannot allow the fleeting moment to go by because it is not going to last forever. So I only hope that the leadership on both sides grasp fleeting opportunities and they bring peace about. The last point that I want to make is on the issue of terrorism and extremism, which indeed is a curse for all of us. It has to be defeated. But how? How to defeat terrorism and extremism? In the world, in the region, in Pakistan, in India, how to defeat it? Firstly, we have to have a very realistic and clear understanding of the root causes of terrorism and extremism. And then, addressing those root causes is the critical issue. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, we will fail. We can fight for centuries against terrorism as it exists now. If we don't address the root causes, it will carry on and on and on and on. We have to adopt a holistic approach towards eliminating terrorism and extremism. And here I would like to point out, very frankly, that we must consider some ground realities in India also. I'm going to talk of Pakistan also. Please don't take it that I'm just here to give a lecture to the Indians on what is happening here. I do understand the environment in Pakistan also. But we have to understand these things, we have to talk very frankly about them, we have to understand them, and we need to address them. And if we all behave like ostriches with our heads in the sand, well then we won't reach any kind of peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Kashmir remains the key dispute and the sore point. We had a freedom struggle since 1947 going on. And from 1989 onwards, this non-violent movement turned into a militant struggle. This has a direct impact on Pakistan's society. There is an emotional involvement of the people of Pakistan with the people of Kashmir. There is public sympathy in the people of Pakistan for the people of Kashmir. Therefore, this has given rise to dozens of freelance mujahideen groups. And it is encouraging militancy in Pakistan society, which certainly needs to be controlled. But the task of controlling these dozens of militant groups who have come up since 1989 is not easy, it's very difficult. And I personally feel that dispute resolution is the only permanent solution. And we must go for dispute resolution. The story also does not end at Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen. New phenomenon of terrorism and extremism have erupted in your society and in Pakistan society, which we need to address. The alienation and the frustration of the minorities in general, and the Muslims in particular in India, as a result of some prejudices, unequal opportunities, maybe some atrocities, are leading to extremism within the Muslim youth here. This needs cognizance and correction at your level, at the government, with the government policies. As I said, please don't think that I am not cognizant of what is happening in Pakistan society. We face challenges from 4 facets of terrorism and extremism. We face the challenge of terrorism from Al-Qaeda. We face the challenge of terrorism from militant Taliban. We face the challenge of extremism, of Talibanization in the settled districts of the frontier province. We face the challenge of extremism in our society. I know that we evolved a strategy to deal with each one of these four. So please understand that I am talking very bluntly and in a straightforward manner, but please understand that there are problems in India, there are problems in Pakistan, there are problems in this whole region and in the world. We need to understand those core issues and the problems, strike and go for those resolution of those core issues. I always have been saying, drawing a simile between terrorism and extremism with a tree. Terrorism, if you kill terrorists, whenever anything happens, whether it is Bombay or Lahore or anything, you have plucked the leaves of a tree. The leaves will grow again, maybe in great numbers. If you are able to cut off any terrorist organization, you have chopped off one branch of that tree. The tree will continue to grow. You have to get to the root of that tree, uproot that tree. Then only will you end terrorism and extremism. And that is the root that I always keep talking of. That is the root which the world has to understand. And we have to understand in this region, you have to understand in your own country, and we have to understand in our own country. My belief has always been that terrorism is born from the womb of festering political disputes. So long as the world ignores this reality, so long will terrorism and extremism live and flourish as a last resort of an oppressed people. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as responsible nuclear weapon states, I wrote this conclusion, so I'm going to read it. As responsible nuclear weapon states, we have to demonstrate to the world that we have the courage and the conviction to settle our problems in a civilized manner. We must also demonstrate the courage and wisdom to write a new chapter of peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial cooperation. It is only through improving the condition of our downtrodden masses that we can claim to have matched the challenge of change, the change. I am an optimist. I see the dividends of peace between Pakistan and India enveloping the entire South Asian region. With our human resources, our talent, in which I have no doubt, talent of the people of this whole region, and our potential, there is so much that we can do together to uplift South Asia into a zone of peace and prosperity. So therefore, may God guide us, ladies and gentlemen, and help us in all our sincere efforts. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The sense I got was, General, if I may just start off the question, is that you were at the helm for 10 years, and you made various efforts of peace. A lot of them were disrupted for acts of terrorism mainly from, I think, what happened in India. Now, you were given a chance for 10 years, and you were an undisputed leader of your country. India went through some changes of government. We were a more democratic setup. And you seem to be putting most of the blame on India, that you tried, but there was something wrong here. Firstly, am I correct on that? And if that is the case, what is it that you think that you couldn't do in 10 years that you could possibly now do, or not you, but say whoever's in charge, could possibly do in the coming years? Because you had your chance.
Thank you. I don't think I think we should forget about who we were blaming, I'm not trying to blame India. I'm just trying to speak the realities of the existing environment as I see it. Whether it is to blame Pakistan or India is not the purpose. I think we've come a long way. As I said, we need to identify the problem. Whoever it is about, whether it is India or Pakistan, is not the issue. So I have tried to be realistic, but we should, again, I would say that we should leave the past, leave it. Leave it, okay, even if I'm wrong, that I'm trying to blame India for the past, forget about it. We need to move ahead and understand what the problem is, and let's move ahead. I'm prepared to take the blame for, if at all, whatever I did was wrong. But now that you've asked a direct question, so therefore I'm not trying to blame anyone. Let's stop this blame game against each other, and again the acrimony and the hatred. What I could do, I've given you a detailed account of how we moved and how in those years, what all happened as far as the peace process between India and rapprochement between India and Pakistan is concerned, and how we moved and then struggled, moved forward, then backward, then forward and backwards. Well, I can't say really what I did wrong. I was doing it very sincerely. I came here. I was trying my best that we need to meet with your leadership. Always, I tried my best. And whenever an opportunity came and your leadership was going with me or invited me or spoke to me, I have never once been negative about it. So I really don't know, as far as the peace process between India and Pakistan is concerned, what I have done wrong. I would
Let's
like
look
you
at the
to point
future.
out.
What about the future? Well, what do you think will change in the future which makes you an optimist?
Sorry? The change.
What do you think will change for the future, which you said you're still optimistic?
Yes.
Pardon?
Yeah, yes, indeed. I pointed out in this, whatever I said, that there is an attitudinal change required. Firstly, I said that the core issue is the issue of the people of Pakistan and India developing more affinity towards each other. And I think it was happening. I know I interacted with so many Indians during the cricket matches, and so many Indians coming to Pakistan at various occasions. There was an influx of Indians moving to Pakistan. There was a great people-to-people contact going on. That should have gone on. It must go on to change views of the people. And that is the key to the whole issue. And then, of course, is the issue, having developed this kind of affinity or a desire of peace between the people of India and the people of Pakistan, then we need to move forward towards resolution of the disputes and also addressing the core issue of terrorism and extremism together. And I also pointed out stopping meddling in each other's internal affairs. I think, although I didn't elaborate there, but that means a lot. We must stop that, because there is a lot of meddling in each other's internal affairs that goes on. Maybe it's going on since 1947.
But I might just voice an opinion, General Saab here, is that, in fact, I beg to differ. My experience has been, and I've been to Pakistan several times, I think many people here have been too, is in fact the people-to-people contact is very warm. The hospitality, the warmth is actually completely at dissonance with what happens on the political level. It's the politicians, in fact, who are dividing these two nations with their politics. And I think that unanimously, the experience of many people here has been that when you go to Pakistan, it's completely different from what is the image which is built up. And I think it's mutual the other way too. In fact, when I come back from Pakistan always, I tell my friends, they kill you with kindness. You have to run away after a point. It is such a hospitable country. Yeah. Anyway, that's another point.
The negative being that they'll make you eat whenever, even if you don't feel like eating.
That too. So before I open it up, I must ask you this question about what happened in Mumbai on 26/11. This is something which is quite traumatic for India. Because yes, there have been terrorist attacks in India, there are people leaving bombs and disappearing, etc. But this was like an invasion of a country. And it affected, it's not only that it was in a five-star hotel, I think it was the act of a kind of invasion and intrusion into this country. And the reaction we got from Pakistan, from the administration, the army, was extremely disappointing to say the least. There were prevarication, changes of stands, that we'll send the ISI chief, no, it was not Pakistan, anything to do with Pakistan, no, they were not Pakistanis, they were non-state actors, yes, they were Pakistanis, and so forth. And we have one Pakistani who we believe is to be Pakistani national, which has been recognized now. As a leader who's been there for a decade, you're fully aware of the system. I want to ask you, how should have the Pakistan government handle this entire issue? Do you think the Pakistani state agencies were or could have been involved? And what do you think should be done now?
Yeah. Yes, I would like to talk on this. I don't want to comment on what the Pakistan government did or did not do. But I do want to comment on a few things, certainly. It was most unfortunate, there is no doubt. Any sane person would agree that this kind of an act in Bombay was a terrorist act, and terrorists have no nationality. Now, right on day one, the day it has happened, right on the second day, ISI has done it, Pakistan government has done it, Pakistan army is involved, officers are involved. Now, should we say the same thing about Lahore just now? No, we must not say that.
People have said it.
Sorry?
I said people have said it in Pakistan.
Some, yes. But not of the level, Arun Saab, of the war hysteria that was developed because of Bombay. A war hysteria that there will be surgical strikes, there will be military action, people saying, go and punish Pakistan. Please understand, these are very serious statements. Pakistan has armed forces. We cannot go to war because of this. First, do give considered responses. Take some time, analyze. When you have the proof, yes, indeed, come out in the open and talk to them. And I would expect the Pakistan government and the people of Pakistan to treat a terrorist as a terrorist. But if it happens right on day one, and ISI is the rogue, Pakistan army is the rogue, I think it is overdone here. That's what I feel. I think it's overdone, and we need to be more sober and calculated and give considered views, analyzed and authenticated. Now that you had all the intelligence, I think, when you uncovered a lot of things and you gave it to the government of Pakistan, I really am not privy to all the details. But yes, indeed, Pakistan government should cooperate. because this terrorist act has taken place. And anyone who's done it needs to be punished.
But what is your assessment of the situation? Do you agree that it's originated and planned from Pakistan soil?
I can't say. I really can't say, because I'm not privy to the details. I'm not. I think I am not privy to all that you've sent there to the government. I don't know at all what details you have sent, so I wouldn't be able to comment on this.